And I'm going to invite Nikki, Paul, and her son Ethan, who were in Mexico, I think 3 weeks ago now already. Is that correct?
Probably.
Yeah. And I'll let you speak, and you just have to hit that space bar. Thank you.
So this is Mexico 2022. Ethan and I have been 3 times now. So this is our 3rd trip to Mexico. We've helped build 3 houses. So that's why. And I make a photo book for him every year. So this is my title page. Makes it easy. This is the group of us that did all the work. So there's 13 of us. 6 are from Canada, like Ontario, where I'm from, and the other 7 are from throughout the states. And I think only one of them does construction for a living. So it's not like any of us have we're not in the trade, right? So we're just ordinary lay people picking up a hammer and paintbrush and doing the work. So we went to a city called Ensenada, which is only about a couple hours. Here's San Diego. So it's really not far down into Mexico, but you go through Tijuana, and that's a whole interesting, another part of the world that, yeah. So Ensenada has quite a large population, and it's kind of a long, spread out city. So they have the western side where you have a lot of the things that here that you're used to seeing, and then they have the other hand, the southern side, which is very poor. And their roads are horrendous. I'm surprised we didn't break some shocks or lose a tire or something. It's pretty bad. So we went there for, by the time you get to San Diego and drive down, the actual building only takes 4 days, but we'll get into that in just a minute. Oops, sorry, too far. This is the family that we built for. It's a family of 10 people, and living in a very small area, which is, this time around we built a bigger house. We built a 4-bedroom, and they all share rooms, so it'll be 3 people in 1 bedroom, 3 in another, 3 in a third, and I think the mom's going to be in her own bedroom, but all the kids share rooms because there isn't much space to go around. They're not huge houses that we built. This is what they were currently living in. So it's basically some tarps thrown up with some wood. It looks like they have electrical in the old one. It doesn't pass code here, but it's a different world over there. They don't have a lot of building code, so we built them a solid house, but it's, like I said, there's no building codes that I'm aware of down there. So, and they only have 1 mattress here at this point. So I don't know how many of them slept on the 1 mattress. I'm sure some slept on the dirt. But this is a quick picture of what we built. This is the 4-bedroom, simple house, no plumbing, just some electrical, which we put in, and they were going to have to get someone to hook it up. This is the side view, and then this is just the dimensions. This, like I said, it's a bigger house. It cost $9,200 to build this house, and then the team, most of the folks in Canada did fundraising to buy the materials, because the family is required to buy the land that the house is built on, and the land is about $9,000, and I kind of stepped off the lot thinking it might be 40 by 100, but it's not real big. So $9,000 for a itty bitty piece of land that takes up the house, and they have a little bathroom there, and that's about it. Not a lot of space. So when we get there on day 1, the cement slab is already there. We're sitting on a pile of wood there and a pile of drywall, and then we start. I know some of you, I know Kelly does, know Bev Schurz. This is Bev. Bev's one of my best friends. She went to Dort with me, and we have known her for over 30 years. And her son Benny went with us as well. Benny happens to be a really good friend of Ethan, so we invited them along, and it's kind of nice to be able to share that experience, especially with people you know. You don't have to know anybody, but it is good to go with people you know, just enjoy the experience a little bit that much more. So day 1, here we are starting to build the walls. This is the very first wall that we're putting together. Here you can see the wall on the ground. What they're going to do next is put the sheeting, which is 4x8 sheet, basically of plywood that has ribs in it to make it look like siding, because it's just wooden walls. It's very dry there, so you don't need a whole lot extra. We're slapping that 4x8 on the wall, and then we'll raise it up. And once it's up, it gets painted. It's a little easier to do it that way, but and then of course later on we cut out the wall, the windows, because you slap on the 4x8 and then you cut the walls out later on. Here's a picture of the second wall going up. So we're doing the longer walls first, and then we'll go inside and build the walls, inner walls, before we finish on the last outer wall. You can see the sheeting's up. There's no cutouts because, like I said, we'll paint first and then we'll cut it out. Nice view of what the area looks like, and these are not nice level. These are not nice level build areas. For the most part, they're on the side of a hill, and so you really have to dig down and level off your area before you can put cement down. So it's kind of it's work. We don't do that part, but it's there when we get there. And yeah, there you go. So here we are building those inner walls and getting them all going. And so John is kind of the leader of the group. He's done it, I don't know how many times, 8, 9, 10 times. I met him through a friend of mine from back home. So that's my connection into the group. Everybody there has a connection somehow to John or somebody that's been on the group, and word of mouth and just sharing the experiences, get people, fired up about wanting to come. This is the end of the first day. So all the walls are up and the roof is on. Windows are cut out. I mean, we have to put some plywood up in here yet, but that comes the next day. So tremendous progress in one day. This is the neighbor's house, by the way. That's how close you were to the next person who lives in a structure made of tarps and some wood. And this hole here is somebody else's. So the property ends right here. This dugout here is the neighbor's attempt to flatten his land to eventually build on. So they're really pretty tiny lots. Okay, so day 2, we're hanging. First, the electrical is put in, some simple wiring, just some outlets and some lights, very simple. And then we're hanging up drywall. So the ceiling is put on with screws, but the walls are put on with nails. So it's a little different than here. And then somebody had a hammer and was cutting out the doors, because you're hanging up the drywall right over top of the doors. And then he was using a saw, so I'm like, okay, I can do that too. I can do that too. It's different. I've never done it that way. The sawzall must have been in use somewhere else, but. And then you're taping and mudding. So at the end of the second day, it's so dry there that you can get 2 coats on in the day that you're there, and then somebody is texturing the walls by the time you leave. So it's very fast. And then also that second day, they're putting the shingles on. And they had an air nailer and it broke. So then you're doing all the nailing by hand, which is okay. We have lots of people, but it goes fast. So like I said, it's not a big house, and it's nowhere near what we're used to. It's probably not even bigger than my garage, and you've got 10 people living in it. So, so this is this would be during day 2, I guess, because they're still finishing up the shingles on the roof. But there's a lot of people, a lot of equipment, not a lot of space. So here you can really tell the drop, how far they had to. I'd say about 3 feet at least down. There's several times that we slid down this little hill trying to get over there. I'm surprised they didn't pull a muscle sliding funny, but Ethan and Benny built some steps later on. I don't know if I have a picture of it, I'll see. So day 3, now we're painting. And after we're painting, we're putting the outlets in, and the covers, and this gal's 15 years old. She's married to the 18-year-old son of the woman that's living in this house. And she has a 2-month-old baby. which, I mean, I've got a 15-year-old. I can't imagine Abby being in a similar situation, but it's very normal there. Just it's not comprehensible to us, but I mean, the mother, who is now 43, she got married at 15 and started having kids, and that's just the way it is there because they live in a very poor area. They don't go to school. If they do go to school, it's not for very long because they've got to get out and work. Most of the people in the family either are selling candy somewhere or working in the fields. A lot of field workers there, a lot of agriculture. So they're busy. So here's Ethan putting an outlet on, and there's Bev scraping off leftover stuff on the floor, cleaning it up before the next day. So day 4, the house technically is done. We're just doing a lot of last minute stuff. There's a couple outlets that we didn't have that I put in quick. And then what we do is we stage the house. So we bring in the beds. And we make the beds. We put sheets and blankets on. We buy them things for the house in addition to that, like we bought them a stove and we bought them a bunch of food. We bought table and chairs and some silverware, which bought them some toys. We could have bought them an outhouse, but they had already something set up. I think for an extra $300, we could have bought them an outhouse, but they were okay there. Here's some pictures of what the bedrooms look like. Nothing fancy. It's just basically big enough to hold how big is that? The twin, a double bed. And where Ethan's working on, it's a double bed on the bottom for 2 kids, and then a single at the top. So that's a 3-person room. And this shelving unit is something that one of the foremen made, was just some of the leftover wood that the windows the door frames that you cut out, the doors that you cut out. So not a lot gets thrown away. Then after you're done staging the house, we have what's called the key ceremony, where we're all standing in a circle, and as we pass the key around, we're all sharing what the week has meant to us. And I mean, the first time I did this, I was in tears because you don't realize how good you have it until you see somebody that struggles as much as these guys do, having to work, I don't know how many hours, but coming home with maybe $75 a week between all of them. So, yeah, it was very emotional. This time, I'm a bit more prepared because I've done it several times, didn't, make a fool of myself. So that was Bev and Benny's first time. That was very good. And then after we've all said something, we give them the key and they open the door to their new home for the first time. And they've seen it while we're building it, but that last day, they don't know what we've done on the inside, so it's that much more of a blessing. And then they make a meal for us. So we had rice and some chicken, and it's really not a fancy meal, but it was nice. And so this is the expression. She was not a very emotional woman, but a lot of times in Mexican culture, they have a very easy time expressing themselves. So a lot of times you'll see even the men crying when they go into their house. She was not. She's divorced, I think. But this is the most expression I'd seen on her the entire time, and that's her youngest, her 2-year-old. Just thrilled with what they've received. And then here's our group photo at the end. We're all waving, and this gentleman here is well, you can't see him. That's one of the foremen. He is Mexican. This is another guy from Canada. He also works there for Hugo full time. So we had 2 guys helping us because this is a bigger house. We got it done with 15 people in record time. We did really good. And yeah, so here's Ethan and Benny. And we should have had them do this the first day. Kind of chisel out some steps, that 3-foot drop, just so that we wouldn't wipe out so much. So that was kind of nice for us, and last minute thing before we left. And then the boys played some soccer with. This is Samuel. This is always kind of nice. Soccer's kind of like international language there. Everyone plays soccer, so it's like their version of football or basketball here. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I went to Mr. B slide. thought it was gonna pull up. Maybe it won't, sometimes people ask us, how do the families do after we leave? Do they take care of their place? And we visited a couple places that John had built, not the ones that I had built. And those people put like little additions onto their house, and they put, a nice little fence around it. So I'd say for the most part, people do take care of their stuff. In fact, with this family, so we left on Friday. That Sunday afterward, we had some more bedding delivered to them. And I already noticed they had taken down their tarps, and they were neatly folded, and so they had collapsed their old house and they moved into the new house, and they were very involved in the building. So I realized I think they're gonna take really good care of what we've provided for them, and it was a wonderful experience. So I'd like to go back again next fall with the girls, because I've gone 3 times with Ethan. I've never taken the girls. So if Ethan's going to college, then maybe the girls will want to come with me and experience that a little bit. So we have time for questions.
We have time for questions.
Mr. B
Any questions you want to ask Nikki? Joe?
How do you pick a family?
So the families get recommended by a pastor in the area. So if they're attending one of the churches, the pastor will recommend them. And then Hugo goes and does an extensive interview with them. And some people have actually been denied because they want it for the wrong reasons, or you have to own the land that's built on. You just can't be renting because they don't want you to sell the house once it's built. So there's some requirements, but. Good question.
So if that's a 4-bedroom house, how big are those bedrooms?
Let me go back. Because I think there were some dimensions on this later. There it is. It's 7 feet 11 inches by 7'6". So it's like 12 by 4, 12 by 7.
I don't think Caden could sleep in there.
But they're very short. Like Benny was quite a bit taller than Ethan. How tall is he? 6'4"? Yeah. He was like by far the tallest. And there's short Mexican, and then there's this family here who's from the Mexico City area. They were short for Mexicans. I think she came up to here on me, and so they can do with less space, I guess. I don't know. Yes.
How do they have money to buy land? Is the land not expensive or so there?
Well, I think it is very expensive for the tiny little lot that they get on the side of a hill, but so they get a loan. It's $9,000, and they pay $100 a month for 10 years, is what I was told. And like I said, if they're only making $75 a week, that's $300 US a month. A third of that right off the bat. So, it's really hard to get out of that culture. When they don't have much of an education, and then they work in the field, and it's hard to step up and get out of that level of poverty. So we were working on the roof, and Benny, who's Ethan's friend, he went to Spanish immersion, so he heard the guys talking a little bit in Spanish, and they were talking to one of the foremen, and what did they say?
They're asking him how to get out of this life and get a better life, and how to get a good job and working as a construction place, a construction worker and all that stuff. Just how to get a better life.
So I thought also very good. And that was that 18-year-old that was asking that, who had a wife now and a son, and but somebody would have to take them on to apprentice, and they probably wouldn't get paid. Well, that affects the whole family's income for the month, and so it's not easy to. So hopefully this gives them a step up. At least now they have a place to live, but they still have to make a mortgage. They still got a lot of mouths to feed, so. There's only so much we can do, and you wish you could do more, but I think Hugo built, I want to say 100 houses this last year.
Not this last year.
But they've done up to, not bad, but they've done up to 140 houses a year, depending on how many groups come and volunteer, because The last time Ethan and I went, our group was much bigger. I think we had 30 people, so we were able to build 2 houses. So we only had 13 people this time. I think COVID scared a lot of people off, and they tried to get a group together last year, but so Canada, it's a little different than in the States. We could come and go, but Canada, when you come back, you have to quarantine for 2 weeks. So most people could not afford to take 3 weeks of vacation to go build a house. So it didn't happen last year, unfortunately. But that's eased up.
So where do you stay when you're in Mexico?
So Yugo has a campus in Ensenada that they, yeah, you describe it here.
It's kind of like a little hotel there, almost, that's just all fenced off, because of the crime rate and all that, so.
But we each have our little bedrooms, which are very similar in size to these. They're not big. And then you have a communal, like a bathroom and your little shower room, and then they provide us with meals.
Okay.
So we're having breakfast and supper there. And then lunch is on the job site, outside. You just find a pail to sit on or on the dirt, whatever, and sandwiches and chips and some fruit, nothing fancy. We do try to go to we call it the Chicken Shack. There's a little local restaurant that they do rotisserie chicken, so we stop there for a snack before we go back to the campus. But I think we ate really well, to be honest with you, the whole week. But yeah.
What do they do like for water?
Well, they have to have water brought to them because a lot of people have one of those, I don't know, 250 gallon, maybe what you want to call it, well, it's not, yeah, it's like a bin, but it's like a plastic, what am I thinking? You farmers have them for like a tote.
Storage tank.
Tank of some sort, and so then the guy comes around and, you wave him down. Yeah, the last house we built, we bought a tank and we raised it up off the ground so that centrifugal force can make it naturally flow into the house or the washing machine, whatever, but they have to buy water. Because there's not a lot of rain there. Obviously, there's hardly anything that grows there unless you water it, so nobody's got green grass. Some banana trees, but palm trees here and there. Lots on the western side, because it's more, they even had Carnival Cruise Line had a ship there. The Disney Cruise Lines had a ship in the western side, and because it's like a close port to the U.S. side, so it makes it an international. Somehow cheaper on taxes because they stop at an international port. So, yeah.
Yeah, it looked like it was all desert. Can they
Yes.
use a garden, or you said they worked
No.
in fields? Where do they work in?
The fields are all irrigated,
Okay.
and so they have lots of greenhouses too, but and don't ask me what they grow. I saw cucumbers inside the greenhouses, and outside I'm not sure what they all grew, but if he says it comes from Mexico, a lot of it comes from the Ensenada area, I'm sure. Because there's, a lot. And there's a lot of people that's what they do for a living. Weed and pick the vegetables. It's cheap labor.
So these houses that you build are almost like a mansion compared to what their neighbors have. Are the neighbors jealous? Do they?
You know what? So the neighbor for these couples with the house. I have a good picture of the neighbor's house right here. I think so. He's by himself, and we'd see him later on in the day, but we interacted much with him, so I don't really know how he felt. He just burned his trash. He's got his tarps. This is his house, but the other tarp is his fence line, and he's just burning stuff. They don't have garbage pickup there, so they burn it. And there's a lot of while you look at the picture here, there's stuff everywhere. Glass, and then their poor 2-year-old is walking around with no shoes on. We're like, ah! It's a different culture, And the baby, the 2-month-old, they never put it down, and I was like, why don't they put the baby down? There's no place to put the baby down. It's like dirt everywhere, right? So, and then glass, and so they're all holding the baby all day long. The baby sleeps with them in the bed, so it's just different. They're very close knit family, so yeah. Any other questions? Let me just get through my slides.
Thank you, Nikki and Ethan.
Oh.